Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous. And here's her story. Hi, Ollie. I can't thank you enough for your work. It has been the source of so much clarity, and I found out I wasn't alone in this abuse. I really believed I was the only person in the world who experienced the horror of a narcissistic mother. Some of the abuse I thought was unique to me. For example, the problems with gift giving and the fact she didn't buy me personal hygiene products for my period. It's just another... Me and Charlene have that conversation every month, how her mother did nothing for her period. It's over and over again. It's these mothers, they want to destroy their daughters. There are so many other parallels, but those two in particular were soul-crushing. I told the story about my period for the very first time to my therapist this summer. I carried all the shame and internalized it as my fault somehow. There are many layers to my story, so there might be more stories to tell, but today I'm going to focus on the beginning and the end. Before I was conceived, my mother and father decided getting pregnant would keep them together. My mother was 16 and my father was 18. My mother was summering in a Navy town where she met my father, but was supposed to return to New Jersey for her junior year in high school. Living in New Jersey, my father would have to hitchhike about 300 miles if he wanted to see her. Pregnant, she would stay in Maine and live with her grandparents. That was their scheme. It worked. They got married. My dad stayed in the Navy, and we all lived with my great-grandparents for 3 years until my sister was born. I will refer to her as D. My great-grandfather owned a business in town and took my father on after his naval obligation was over. My father assumed the business when my pappy was too old and just retired a couple years ago. My parents were highly visible in the community and had to maintain a posh image, so I was just a means to an end. I now refer to myself as their tool. The abuse was horrific, and I could never figure out why I was the bad seed and constantly compared to my sister, who was the perfect child. I could do nothing right, and she could do nothing wrong. The tale of abuse is long and awful, sadistic. That is for another day to tell. Because you were just a tool. You understand? They didn't have you out of love for you. They had you out of a desire for them to be together. You were just an ends to a means. And that unfortunately, that never changes. They never learn to love you, do they? That's the real problem. You were a tool when you were born, and you were a tool for life. Because the narcissist never even tries to love you. Never even tries to learn to love you. My sister left Maine when she was 18 and took off for California, where she married a guy she knew 3 weeks. That's a happy girl, huh? 7 years later, she gave birth to twin boys. Their marriage was rocky, and the added burden of twins made Dee decide to flee from her husband. When I say flee, I mean just pack the twins in a suitcase and go. Her husband was made out to be a monster to us, and we all believed it. My parents and extended family took care of the trio. She was given a car, a house, free babysitting every day. You get the picture. Even though they did this, she hated them and could barely give them the time of day until she needed something. She always got what she wanted and made no mystery about her feelings towards them. Maybe they thought they could buy her a good favor. That's the way it always is for the golden child, man. Look, happy children don't run away at 18 to California and get married three weeks later. Okay? You lived a hell, she lived a different sort of hell. An entitlement, almost an entitlement hell. Where the only thing she sees, she actually, see, this is when the golden child turns the love bombing, I guess, against the narcissist. Okay, in their effect to make her the golden child and you the scapegoat. All your sister did was take advantage of it. Use that entitle and look at them like they're fools. Like, okay, not only am I going to leave, okay, fuck up my life, I'm going to come back and make you pay for it. That's what comes with being the entitled narcissistic golden child. That you can do and say whatever you want to anybody you want. Even the narcissist. Meanwhile, I had moved to Massachusetts and made a nice life for myself. I got clean and sober at 30 and had a nice career. I was single. I went into therapy because I couldn't find a decent guy and wanted a traditional lifestyle with a husband and children. My nephews were very special to me, and I did everything I could for them. Therapy was helpful, but I was still unconscious to the root of my problem. At 34, I met my husband and married him at 37. I now see he has narcissistic traits, but I can't really say he's a full-blown narcissist. At 38, I had my son. My husband became very abusive after birth. Not physically, but emotionally. I could never do anything right. Same thing, different decade. I was independent for so long I could balance many things at once, and my husband expected this from me. I was to be a mom and a professional without skipping a beat. All household responsibilities were mine and a hot meal on the table every night. He was 40 when our son was born and had lived at home until we got married. A huge red flag, but my eggs were screaming. I wanted a child and overlooked a lot. Back to my parents. They wore my son like jewelry. I'll refer to my son as M. M is very intelligent. He walked early, talked early, read by 3, and could hold an adult conversation. Oh, how this reflected exactly what my parents wanted. I registered M in private school and my mother freaked out. She said he was going to be a snob and a horrible person. Knowing I was steadfast in giving my son the best educational experience possible, she changed her tune to how wonderful it was that we were doing this. Just another thing she could brag about to her friends. He was more precious than diamonds to her because of his behavior and his intelligence, or the potential to turn him against you eventually. He's just another tool. I hope you see that. I asked my husband once when M would fall out of favor with my parents because he has a mind of his own and opinions. As a young person, M just let them talk and never challenged them. When he decided he wanted to go into medicine and become an emergency room physician, my mother was out of her mind. She told him what a mistake that was and how he was going to ruin his life. Thankfully, M just never internalized her shit and blew it off. He was accepted to a great university and thrilled to be starting his life. 2 weeks before he left home for the first time, she called him to tell him he was going to a horrible school. M asked where she heard that, and of course, she couldn't remember. M suggested to my mother that perhaps the school was horrible because they developed the very first MRI machine. He just didn't let her get under his skin, and thank God for that. I was more upset than he was about the comment. Want to know why? Because you know where the comment's coming from. He doesn't. He may think it's coming from concern, but you know it's coming from sabotage. And who's she really trying to sabotage in her mind? Not him. Not him. You. You. She doesn't want you to have a son that's a successful doctor who'll take care of you later on in life. He doesn't want you to be able to brag about your son, the doctor. The sabotage isn't about him. The sabotage is about you. Who the fuck calls a gifted grandson who's going to be a doctor to try to tear him down? What the fuck? It wasn't about him. It's about you. He's a tool. He's nothing more than an object, a tool to upset you. I calmly asked her about it, and she told me we were reaching beyond our station. Those were her exact words. private school from K to 12, and one thing but a doctor, and was one thing, but a doctor was just too much for her to be proud of, because it's not about him. It's about you. 10 months ago, I got a call from my father that mom was in ICU and going to die. Yay. I jump in my car and race to her bedside. She was diagnosed with an abdominal aortic aneurysm, and the location made it inoperable. The thoracic surgeon said she had 3 days to 2 weeks to live. The aneurysm would burst and she would bleed out internally. I would put work on hold and nursed her once she got home, wiping her ass and cleaning up diarrhea when she shit all over the house. She had no control, and this wasn't an act, believe it or not. Hospice was in charge of her comfort, and nurses visited several times a day. She lived 3 months, not 3 days. My sister is a hospice nurse. It would be laughable if it wasn't so horrible. She barely had anything to do with my mother during this time, and would always say she wished the bitch would just hurry up and die. Yeah, because she's a ruined golden child. Entitled to the end. Also understands your mother's the golden child understands the narcissist's true nature better than anybody early on. That's why she left them at 18. But that's why she also knew she can come back and manipulate him later. She shows them no remorse because she knows the narcissist deserves none. Meanwhile, I'm doing my job of being the one who is always available. I was the scapegoat until I left for college. Then when D went to college, I became the golden child. The roles reversed. I played that role like a professional. I was at their service for over 30 years, putting their needs before my own and making nice all the time. I am so lucky I lived 150 miles away, because it would have been hell to live close to them. The distance created a bit of relief from their demands. Okay, my mother knew she was dying, and her narcissism knew no bounds. The verbal abuse towards myself and my father was too horrible to repeat. They're going to get their money's worth at the end. The narcissist always gets their money's worth on their deathbed, don't they? That's why you let them die alone. They made their bed, let them die in it. That's what I say. Since my mother knew how Dee felt about her, she took her in and out of the will numerous times. She actually made me and my father to promise her that Dee would get nothing if she became homeless or ill. That's what she wanted. Your mother's on her deathbed. Here's the thing. Here's my proof about the fucking wills with these people. They're nothing more than a tool. Nothing more than a tool. She's on her deathbed, secretly really hoping that your sister becomes homeless and sick and then is cut off from the money. Control from beyond the grave. You're nursing this monster? Let her die. Should have let her die. Your sister had the right idea, because your sister knew her better than anyone. Well, it came time to divide her jewelry, and she asked me to help. I have diamonds and good jewelry, so all I was interested in were the sentimental pieces. I told my mother Dee could have the diamonds and other valuable pieces. I leave to check in with my family for a few days. During this time, I get a call from my sister that I need to come right away. The end is soon. Like always, I race to Maine to find my mother no worse than earlier in the week. My sister shows up and starts complaining about the jewelry she got. She wanted more. My mother got upset and asked for all the jewelry to be returned. My pieces were in Massachusetts, so I didn't have them at the time. My mother had given me a bracelet that was my grandmother's about 20 years earlier, and she wanted that too. I actually spoke up for myself and said that it was a gift and it was unfair of her to take it back after 2 decades had passed. It was a gold bracelet that appraised for $5,000. I rarely wore it because It got so much attention, I was afraid I would be mugged for it. That's not the point. It was mine. It had nothing to do with my sister. My mother went full narcissist, my mother went full on narcissist with me over this. It was really the first time I didn't just comply with her wishes. So on the deathbed, she's still... And you know what? I got to be honest with you. I think your sister, as greedy as it might sound, is the smart one here. Keep in mind, your mother wanted to cut her out of the fucking will as punishment. Your sister knows your mother, but knew your mother better than anyone. She's like, you old bitch, you're giving me it all. Now, she's not right to put you in that position, but your mother, being your mother, gets to sow more discord, more discontent on her fucking deathbed. This is why you let him die alone. This is why. Long story, I eventually agreed to give her everything, including the bracelet and the items of jewelry I had given her over the years that she returned to me. I was planning on driving the jewelry to Maine because of the value and the possibility of things being lost in the mail. The value was far exceeded what I could insure it for delivery, so delivery was the only option. Oh, I see. Exceeded what I can insure it for, so delivery was the only option. 2 days before I was to deliver the loot, I got a call from her. She was screaming at me for denying her three additional grandchildren. She was saying I had 3 abortions and they were all her grandchildren. My mother was not losing her mind. She stayed sharp as a tack till the end. Right. Sharp to attack and wants to attack till it only gets worse. This is why you let him die alone. I told her I didn't know what she was talking about other than the miscarriages I had before finally being able to carry a child to term. She called me a baby killer. She was unable to sabotage your life sufficiently, so this is her last attempt at the end. Pissed off that the son you had is going to be a doctor and no opportunity to ruin any of your kids and turn them against you. It's bitter, bitter, bitter. I wasn't loud or even angry sounding. I simply told her I was not going to be able to talk to her if she was going to be so hateful. She never spoke to me again. On the day she died, I went to Maine, and when alone with my sister, I asked her, how did Mom come up with the idea I had 3 abortions? My sister looked me straight in the eye and without emotion told me she got the idea from me, and I'm sorry it caused you a problem. Wow. I was crushed, but held it together for my dad. My sister kept telling me the least she could do for my mother was carry out her wishes. I was in no condition to ask him to explain. After Mom passed, I went to Maine several times to help my father adjust to life alone. Just recently, my sister told me she had the jewelry and I was completely out of the will and she would get everything. Big bucks, Ollie. I was dumbstruck. All the years my mom hated my sister and took her out of the will. All the years I was there for them. Holidays, birthdays, etc. All the effort I made to give them an opportunity to show their grandson, even though they were miles apart. To know their grandson, even though they were miles apart. I refer to myself as anonymous on the spot. I was completely heartbroken. I asked my dad if it was true, and he said yes. He says he tries to forget all the bad stuff during that time, so he won't talk to me about it. He tells me Mom thought me as her best friend, but has done nothing to change the will. My sister lives close to him and is playing the part of doting daughter to the hilt. It makes me sick. It makes me sick and breaks my heart. Thankfully, I'm in therapy and was in therapy at the time. That's when I learned about narcissists. I'm 58 years old. I'm not a stupid person, but I had no idea it was her problem and I'm the victim. All these years of trying to be good enough just to be kicked in the teeth. Your videos have saved me even more than therapy. I now know what reality is, and it wasn't because I was an awful person. Ollie, 58 years, I internalized it all, blamed myself, and did cartwheels to please them. My son is home for a bit this month, and we are very close. He knows me and has been asking me what is bothering me. I've been saying I'm fine and actually believed it. My husband said earlier today that I wasn't myself. It just got me thinking. In 2 days will be the 1-year anniversary of the baby killer comment and the last time I spoke to my mother. The body must know, or the subconscious knows, because I have been very subdued without conscious reasons. Thank you, Ollie, from the bottom of my heart for your videos, and thank you to all the people brave enough to send you their story. I'm not crazy or alone. I was a victim, and now I can start to heal. I sent a donation a week ago with a note thanking your wife to share her story about her artwork. I too struggle with my art. Much love and goodness to you and your subscribers. I will continue to donate because your work is important. Best regards, Darlene. Anonymous. Doesn't matter. They're never going to hear it. Look, Anonymous. This is why I've been saying this over and over and over again. You're going to get screwed in the end on the will. Look, the golden child, she knew your mother better than anyone, and she knew exactly what to tell her to get what she wanted. Your sister is just like your mother. She understood her better than she understood herself. And she knew how to get the money. That's all. Listen, at the end, your mother basically got played, though you're the one who gets screwed. Your mother got played by her. This is why there's no forgiving these people. They're going to use their deathbed to torture you, and they're going to use the will. You're never going to get it. You're just not. The roles never really change. You never really become the golden child from the scapegoat. It never changes. It's all an act. It's all an act. They don't change. They don't. Never. Never do they change. Never. Should have thrown a party. And as far as your father goes, you shouldn't say another fucking word to him until you want to have a relationship with me, and you tell your son you ain't to have a conversation with your grandfather. With my sister, they're done. Unless they do the right thing. Which they're not. Should have let her die. Should have died alone. That's what she deserved. That's what you were going to get anyway. If she was going to screw her over, she would have screwed you over. Bottom line. Bottom line. So, I hope that helps. Thank you, Anonymous, for your contribution and your story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you guys. Without you, all this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance. Take care.